Rayzr. Hey, welcome back to Rayzr Ray Draws, channel where I draw literally anything and talk over it. Today I am working on a Unicorn Overlord Demo thumbnail for my Rayzr Ray Plays channel, a game where I play mostly side scrollers. Unicorn Overlord was a pretty interesting game. In fact, I really liked it. I don't normally play a lot of tactical video games, but this is definitely one that I would recommend. It's isometric, you know, uh, it's an isometric tactical game. It's played within the style of the those Vanillaware company video games. So, Dragon's Crown and Odin Sphere, two games that I've played a little bit and haven't finished. I would really like to go and finish those. But yes, Unicorn Overlord was a really fun game for me. I had to get used to trying to figure out how to play the game in terms of learning what type of classes to use under certain situations and adapting to the style of the enemies that come at me. For this thumbnail, I was thinking about a joke that I had did within the gameplay video where because it actually took me off guard, because during the gameplay, while the game, or rather the demo itself, essentially lets you as the character explore the world that the game is setting. And while exploring, it's a isometric look at the entirety of the map as you control a tiny version of your character. And as you're exploring with this tiny character, enemies may appear on the map. Now, I already had an inherent idea that there were going to be enemies on the map, but what I didn't expect was for some enemies to just appear out of nowhere and just sprint at you like high speeds. And one of the instances that this happened, actually the first instance that this happened to me, was with a thief that sprinted at me out of nowhere and scared the mess out of me. It was a straight up jump scare in a game that's not really built on that. It's like, whoa, I just immediately grabbed the treasure that was in the area and ran away. Or at least the first time I was unable to grab the treasure. Like, I just saw the guy dash at me and I just ran away. So I just kind of like played around with that idea of, inching a little bit here and there. Like, is he gonna get me? Can you see me? Can you see me? That sort of thing. And then running back and forth until I'm able to figure out the pattern of this thief trying to prevent me from stealing his stuff, which is ironic considering he's a thief. Actually, now that I think about it, it wasn't even his stuff. Like, it was just stuff lying around out in the open. Actually kind of seems like a trap sort of setting, but when you think about it, but it was very funny because of how crazy that thief ran and took me off guard like that. It's totally unexpected. But yeah, so the idea is I'm gonna have this I believe his name is Alain, Alain. I'm essentially gonna have him sprinting away from the enemy, like holding a bunch of treasure. Probably gonna give him huge eyes. sweat drops sort of thing. While a thief, let me see how he is trying to figure out the head shape of this character. Normally when I make characters small, similar to the game, try to figure out like basic shapes that I can use to simplify the shape, the overall shape of the character, while still giving you the idea of said character so it's recognizable. So I'm doing a little bit of tracing over the small image. Okay. Yeah, I got it for the most part. So this is going to be so I'm going to put this in a little bit of a perspective sort of situation. So Elaine will be the largest character on a thumbnail, quote unquote, because I have an idea of something else later. And he's going to be running away, of course. He's going to be in the foreground, while the thief is going to be in the background dashing at him. So what I like to do, and of course I'm going to be changing this as I go along, draw a small line to a bigger line, and then draw a line to connect them. Sort of give it that idea of perspective. I think I'm going to lift his leg, his forward lunging leg upwards. Probably have his entire upper torso lean backwards a bit, just to show that he's kind of like legs forward running, while his upper torso is trying to catch up because of how fast he needs to run, because those guys are super fast. In fact, I think while the thieves are fast, at least the one that I encountered in the map, later on I encountered, I don't remember the name of the class. I just remember that they were knights on horses, and those guys are even faster. And while I was somewhat prepared for them, it still freaked me out because of how much faster they were compared to the thieves. And it was funny because even though they were faster, I just so happened to be near like a tiny structure on the map. So kind of quickly hid behind that. And as they, as they are dashing at me at high speeds, faster than light, they ram into it and just like kind of sit there before walking away. I'm like, oh, okay. That was silly. Like some sort of cartoon character. But yes, so I'm gonna have have Elaine in the foreground. And now I'm gonna have the thief. Let me think. Yeah, I'm gonna have his you know how you in some instances you'll see characters in shows run with their arms in like this 90-degree angle just to show how much emphasis they're putting on running. Probably gonna change the face because I want to make a face as ridiculous and silly looking as possible to really exaggerate the emotion. But for now, I'm just gonna give him a normal angry face. Again, not putting a whole lot of importance on the detail. I just want to be able to get the idea across first. Uh, Let me think. His right arm is forward. His left leg should be forward. Okay. Just let me use the wrong eraser again. I always forget to do that. It's during the time I had just got done coloring and shading another image, and I was using the soft eraser. But if you forget to change the soft eraser back to the normal eraser, you'll end up erasing with like a little bit of fuzz when you want when you don't want that. You don't want that fuzz. Uh, this is looking a little bit weird. Let me because the whole perspective thing. So one of the things I can help is just to take the first line, bring it back, and then shrink it so you can get an idea on the angle. I should also bring this down to further emphasize that he's dashing upwards and towards him, towards Elaine. Hold on 1 second. So I'm trying to match the middle line with the back, with the line in perspective. This is going to look weird at first, but it all serves a point. Yep, yep. Okay. Yeah, usually the best way to well, for me at least, the best way for me to understand perspective of a certain angle is to just use circles and then, lines that indicate where the circle is turned in said perspective. Okay, now I'm gonna shrink this guy's body. Because again, he's further back. So he's gonna be smaller in perspective. In fact, I might even increase Elaine's size. Let me bring him closer. Yeah, like that. Uh, Okay, so his right arm's forward, so his left leg should be forward. Yeah, with an arch in his back, chest forward. This probably looks like scribbles to everybody else, but in my mind's eye, I can see what I need to in order for me to understand the drawing. Yeah, just like that. So I'm gonna make a few more changes later, but for now, just it's gonna be the idea. Yeah, usually what I do in order to make the characters appear as angry as possible is I make the pupil as small as possible and away from the eyelids. I don't know, something about like a tiny pupil that comes across as like an intense focus on whatever it is, or intense aggression, or rather, on whatever it is that they're dealing with. This isn't necessary. I don't even know why I'm doing this, but just to help me understand, I'm drawing in the speed lines or shrieks that are coming off the characters to emphasize speed. Now, the second part of this idea that I've been wanting to get to is behind the thief will be Joseph. Now, the thing with Joseph, as for the demo, at least in my experience, Joseph was easily one of the best characters to use. Because I believe he was like a really high level. I think it was level 20, while everybody else was like in the single digits, single to double. And he was just destroying everybody he came across. And one of the things that'll happen is right before he attacks an enemy, for some reason, the developers animate the enemy sort of going from a, like a standard position of them just sitting there looking in the direction of, the enemies. So they would be facing forward and, of course, looking forward. But when Joseph, because he's on a horse, when he's attacking enemies, when Joseph shows up, they animate the enemies that you're facing to look up at Joseph. The reason why this is funny is because every time that this happens, it's like them. It gives the impression of them going, okay, I done messed up. They go from being focused on one enemy to And I'm looking upwards at this huge dude on a horse and his sword coming down to chop their heads off or cut them down, to slice them down. So I always gave it the impression of Joseph being like a huge dude towering over somebody. Getting ready to just cut them down. So give him huge arms with a huge sword. And then of course he's got his like pointy villain mustache and his chin beard. This looks so stupid. With his shot back here, like he's Sonic the Hedgehog. On his this super angry horse that gets way too close for comfort. Oh, this looks so stupid. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna make the body look stupid too. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna make it as derpy as possible. But yeah, huge body. Who cares about the proportions? Probably with like a lower body, like a tiny. It's gonna have a tiny lower body and a huge upper body. Just them towering over this dude right before he just cuts them down. But yeah, I would often use him take out the more difficult enemies. Uh, and because of that idea of, a huge dude towering over somebody before swinging down their blade, it immediately reminded me of, uh, I believe it's a manga, uh, essentially an Eastern comic called Kingdom. And one of the things that I love about it, because it happens a lot and it's drawn in great detail, are the glaive swings. Glaives are essentially, the really long pole arms with the curved blades. So if you know Dynasty Warriors, it's like the blade. This is the pole arm that Guan Yu would use, and he was just swing it down. For One Piece fans, it would be Whitebeard, essentially. You know, and in it, for some reason, like the artist for Kingdom always draws the huge dudes on the huge horses at an angle. So instead of, again, derpy horse, instead of, an upright horse, an upright horse, just standing there with a said huge dude. So stupid. instead of doing that, let me draw the legs a little bit. Instead of doing something like this, the artist would always have some manner of excuse to like draw them at an angle. They would all it always seems like anti-gravity defying horses just standing on like say like a hill, and said hill is like slanted. Oh, no. The character themselves are like slanted. It doesn't even matter if it's a hill or not. It'll just be on a regular road, and during an attack or just standing there, that they will be angled. So you would have other characters that would be like just standing upright and correctly, while they're just like angled. And it happens often. I'm just like, why do they do this? But a lot of the times during those instances, there would be these wild glaive swings. And to add dramatic effect, the character that they're swinging at would look up. You know, as I've mentioned before, they would be smaller as this huge dude is angled and swinging. Let me put it in the opposite direction. Swinging their blade at such a high speed that it appears like the glaive is bending. And it's a pole arm, like a strong metallic pole arm. It's not really supposed to bend like that, but the way that the artist draws it, it emphasizes the speed, weight, and like the impact. So I can't even properly. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it would be like this. Yeah. So it would be a long curve. This is essentially the pole, right? The pole is curved, coming at the enemy. Really doesn't matter with the arms, but the blade itself would curve along with it, and it would be heavily exaggerated. Like the blade would be way bigger than it should be, and angled straight towards the enemy as the characters are looking up. And actually in most instances, the characters wouldn't even notice, and it would essentially just be the glaive cleaving through them at high speeds. So there would be a shriek similar to actually it also reminds me of Berserk, where I'm gonna put the character over here instead. So now the glaive is over here. The glaive is away from the enemy. It just sliced through, right? But there will be a shriek that they had just cleaved through this person. And it looks amazing because between the shriek, now that word sounds weird. Shriek. But anyways, between that heavily exaggerated shriek of the cut, there'll be heavy details on the enemy, but no detail on the actual shriek itself. So it appears as though they essentially erased that portion of that enemy's body with that swing of their blade. And it looks wild. I believe One Punch Man also has that sort of style in terms of the manga, where anything moving at high speeds would have this really long streak of just like white. Like there would be no details within the streak, but everything, all the details would be around it. Just to emphasize, it cleaved through the detail itself, essentially. But yeah, that's essentially what I'm going for with Joseph. And with that, I am going to go into a sped up drawing of this, and we'll catch you guys later. Keep your mind, body, and soul razor sharp. Thanks for watching / listening, or however you dealt with this video. Appreciate it. Bye.
Rayzr.